Pan-Asian versus Ethnic National Identity by Helen, Joaquin, Amanda, and Iskander. In this presentation, we are going to be talking about the issue of ethnic national identity versus Pan-Asian identity, the history of Pan-Asian movement in East Asia in 19th century, the history of Pan-Asian movement in America in 20th century, the impact of racism against Asian Americans, how do Asian college students identify, looking beyond Pan-Asianism, and finally, solutions and discussion questions.
Ethnic identity is determined by categories that include religion, nationality, culture, and race. Other components are a shared culture, a general understanding of what it means to belong to an ethnic group, and a collective orientation among the members of an ethnic group. For Asian Americans specifically, it is the degree to which individuals view themselves as members of a particular Asian cultural group and incorporate specific Asian cultural ideas and practices into their self-concept.
The issue that we have decided to discuss in this presentation is that Pan-Asianism goes under the assumption that Asian countries are united when it is of the contrary, which leads to the generalization of different cultures. More specifically, the problem with Pan-Asian identity is that actual minority groups do not behave as collective identity. It destroys the spirit and unique parts of the individual cultures by blending them. Historically and politically speaking, the actual countries themselves have not been close to united, and the concept is abused to allow for outsiders to make false and overgeneralizing claims. Moreover, it promotes racist tendencies within the community, and it adds to a monolithic image that Asian people already face.
To overview on Pan-Asianism, we will be looking at Pan-Asianism in East Asia in 19th century. So the original definition of Pan-Asianism is that it's the ideology that called for the unity amongst all Asian people, and it was created to act against westernization in Asia. It also originated from the Japanese Empire in the 1880s, and the Japanese Empire was using it to try to conquer East Asia, causing oppression and hostility between its country and other Asian countries. So under that assumption, not all Asian countries supported Pan-Asianism from the beginning.
The Asian struggle for racial and political equality started in mid-19th century with Chinese American labor strikes. Labor strikes were a common way for Asian Americans to resist oppression. Throughout history, Asian American workers organized and struck on plantations, railroads, farms, and sweatshops to demand better working conditions and equal treatment. Another way Asian Americans fought oppression was court cases. In the period between 1882 and 1894, Chinese Americans alone fought 1,270 court cases for their civil rights. 170 of those cases went to the Supreme Court. Collectively, these labor strikes and court cases laid foundation for the future Asian American movement. Asian people realized that they had to create a pan-ethnic identity in order to be fully accepted in dominant society. Asian Americans learned that they had to destroy assimilation before assimilation destroyed them. The Asian American movement officially started in the 60s. This period of time was known for Vietnam War protests, the civil rights movement, the feminist movement. During this time, African, Hispanic, and Native American consciousness movement rose to a new level. The 1960s was America's period of great political and social change. But the Asian American movement was little known at the time. The movement gained its first momentum when first large wave of Asian American students entered colleges due to the relaxation of racial discrimination. These college-age Asian Americans initiated the movement with their involvement in political issues. The US war crimes in Vietnam caused Asian Americans to see similarities between US imperialism in Asia and their subjugation by Caucasian Americans at home. Despite being multi-generational American, Asian Americans felt as if they're being forever foreign and they're being left out from mainstream society. The Asian American movement's purpose was to fix this and to create a group identity that would unite all Asians in America.
The second article is the impact of racial identity, ethnic identity, Asian values, and race-related stress on Asian Americans and Asian American international college students' psychological well-being by Derek Kenji Iwamoto and William Ming Liu. This article talks about the impact of racism against Asian Americans. Asian Americans are stereotyped as foreigners, exotic, or perpetual aliens. Moreover, reported incidents of racism against Asian Americans often confuse an Asian American's race and ethnicity. Asian Americans also experience unique forms of racial-related stress, which includes socio-historic racism. For example, Asian American men are perceived to be passive. General racism, for example, all Asian Americans are thought to be good at math and know karate. And perpetual foreigner racism. For example, Asian Americans are seen as foreigners who speak poor English, even if they have American citizenship. Experiences with such racism contributes to the development of a pan-Asian identity because over time, Asian Americans come to see themselves as representative of a larger community against whom racism is directed, regardless of ethnicity or country of origin.
Article 3 was a study that examined ethnic identity search and commitment, the importance of ethnicity in terms of identity, and the relationship of ethnic identity and self-esteem in college students. In the beginning of the article, they said that true identity depends on the support which the young receive from the collective sense of identity which social groups assign to them, meaning that the young need the support from others in order to develop an ethnic identity. In other studies, they found that high school students and younger do not have a sense of commitment to their ethnic identity. Only 1/5 actually searched and committed to one. In their own study, they found that there is a higher search for ethnic identity among minority college students than white college students, meaning that due to overgeneralization of ethnicities from other social groups, minority college students do not have a strong sense of commitment to ethnic identity, so they feel the need to go out and search for one.
Looking beyond Pan-Asianism, Article 4, toward a theory of pan-ethnicity, explaining Asian American collective action by Dina Okamoto, looks beyond Pan-Asianism and talks about pan-ethnicity and pan-nationalism. Pan-ethnicity and pan-nationalism is when ethnic groups together based on cultural origins. Pan-nationalism goes into more exclusive nations rather than focusing on ethnic groups. So Dina Okamoto talks about the competition theory and the cultural division on labor theory. So the competition theory talks about Asian ethnic groups where they're constantly fighting each other because of limited resources and opportunities provided to them by society. Cultural division on labor theory talks about ethnic groups that are being segregated into specific occupations due to occupational opportunities provided by society. Okamoto states that ethnic organizations are a necessary building block for successful pan-Asian collective action. So by her saying that, she's saying that we must acknowledge that there are different ethnic groups, and therefore both theories cannot comply with pan-Asian events as much as they do with pan-ethnicity and pan-nationalism. She further goes into saying that Pan-Asianism fails to look at intergroup competition and views it as solely intergroup competition with other racial groups. Next, we will be looking at solutions to Pan-Asianism. The first solution is on a societal level. We must turn focus away from Pan-Asianism to pan-ethnicity and pan-nationality, meaning that this solution acknowledges that there are different ethnic cultures and dives into intergroup movement rather than intragroup movement, because intragroup movement is not as prevalent between the different Asian groups. The second solution talks about globally and politically resolving hostility between Asian countries to ease intergroup competition. Because many Asian countries hold hostility towards one another due to past oppression and liberation, we must work on resolving them to incorporate a positive pan-Asian movement. The third solution is about Asian Americans, and because Asian Americans mostly consist of younger generation Asians who are fighting against oppression in schools, workplaces, therefore they are indifferent to the past oppressions, so we have to adjust focus to modern society. So in order to do that, we must transition focus of Pan-Asianism from historical oppression and liberation to fit modern society.
These are discussion questions for you. What additional solutions could help solve this issue? Can the concept of Pan-Asianism be applied to other racial groups? And explain why. How important do you feel your ethnic identity is in your life?